To my risk management and trading presentation. This presentation you'll find to be somewhat similar to the presentation I provided on Big Mike's trading regarding risk. So there'll be some of the similar topics discussed within this presentation. However, I have added a few sections that are new and will be very helpful in learning about risk management. So first, before I go into that, let's quickly go over the required risk disclosure, which is we do not provide financial or legal advice. The information contained within this presentation is for discussion purposes only. By continuing to participate in this discussion, you acknowledge that the information provided herein shall not be construed as investment and/or trading advice. It's recommended that each individual participant perform a self-assessment on the risk in which can be taken given their unique financial situation. Furthermore, futures trading involves substantial risk. You may lose all your principal investment or more. It's important to understand the risks associated with futures trading before doing so. It's also important to understand that any past performance of any type of market or trading analysis does not guarantee similar future results. Okay, so as I was saying, as I said before, the sections that are going to be covered here are somewhat similar to what you may have seen in the past with the risk presentation. However, I have added two sections in here, and that would be the dynamic position sizing and then trading for income versus taking a more professional approach using a fee-based professional investment management and the power of compounding your account growth. And of course, at the end of that, we'll just do a quick summary here. So, first section is what is risk? Risk can be defined for this presentation within the following definition. It's really just the potential for an expected outcome to not reach its intended results. Very simple. So, what are the general types of risk associated with trading? Well, there's first of all financial risk, information risk, liquidity risk, performance risk, basis risk, technology risk, settlement risk, disaster risk, opportunity risk, credit risk, regulatory risk, counterparty risk, options risk, and event headline risk. So some of these I'll go into more detail, but just generally speaking, approaching the markets each day, we encounter these types of scenarios, and I'll go into those, I guess, more common risks that we face each day. So the first, risk specific to the intraday trader or retail trader at that. So we're just basically kind of summing these down is financial risk, technology risk, settlement risk, disaster risk, opportunity risk, event headline risk, and psychological risk. So I'll go into these a little more detailed and maybe potential ways of overcoming these risks that we encounter each day. So the first being financial risk. Trading losses are obviously a risk of just plain vanilla risk that we encounter each day with our trading, and that can lead to account depletion. And obviously that becomes, plays into the whole psychological aspect of it all as well. But that's certainly a risk that we need to develop some sort of way to manage, because it's there every day, and it will happen. You will take losses. If you don't take losses in trading, you're either the best trader in the history of the world, or you're not trading. So that's certainly part of your business plan that you need to have in place. Trading, and this again kind of goes in the psychological aspect of trading, and I'll talk to that in a minute here. But the need to make money for living expenses each trading day, that can lead to a major financial risk simply because you'll inherently make the wrong decisions. And the reason is you feel that you have to make money to pay the bills or whatever, and maybe you quit your job and you've decided to just only day trade, and that's going to provide you with income from the comfort of your own home or whatever. And it's absolutely possible, but again, it goes into the whole psychological aspect of it all. Also, financial risk could be simply being undercapitalized. Trading a market that's simply too big for your account size is obviously going to be a very difficult endeavor, and most likely will lead to making again those wrong decisions and maybe risking way too little for such a big market. And what I mean by that is you're simply being stopped out by noise rather than being stopped out in your trade for a meaningful reason. So maybe something structurally is broken down in the market and you stop yourself out versus, having a few tick stop, which is mechanical each trade you take, and just getting wicked out of your trades on each time. Of course, other aspects of financial risk would be margin calls, commissions and fees. You just really need to be on top of that type of stuff. If you're just intraday trading, margin calls may not be something of your concern, but if you're swing trading, obviously that's going to be a key factor in managing your business. Speaking of business, financial risk could also lead to high monthly overhead and really just a poor business structure in a whole. So, having, let's just say, a small account, maybe you're not really making much money, but for some reason you're using a platform that's very expensive, for example, or you're working with a broker that just isn't as competitive as far as commissions go, and they charge you fees or whatever. You really have to be on top of that kind of stuff. I mean, of course, this stuff's no-brainer information, but you'd be surprised with how people kind of forget about these simple little aspects of our business here. So having a high monthly overhead and really just a poor business structure, and what I mean by poor business structure is I guess it's more in the way of taxes, and I won't go into that too much here. It's not the right place, and as I said, I just don't provide tax advice or anything like that. But in essence, if you are structuring your business, and I'm referring to this in terms of how you title your accounts and the taxation of that, and how you distribute those assets, can make a big difference in what you're doing. So that's something for a later time, not today, but it's certainly a concern as far as financial risk goes. Technology risk, again, very, plain vanilla. We need to know this stuff going out of the gate anyway. But if you have a poor front-end trading environment, you're going to have a hard time. It's just I prefer to use, for example, I prefer to use trading, enter my trades through a depth of market price ladder. Compare that to, say, someone that just simply is trying to initiate trades through some sort of web-based application that is doesn't allow you to put your trades on real quickly or take them off, or visualize where your orders are sitting. That could be terrible. Another example would be simply a platform that is not stable and is constantly freezing up on you. I mean, could you imagine having a trade on and your platform freezes up on you, and all of a sudden now you're in big trouble because you can't get out of your trade? Slow internet connectivity, that's really just more to the idea of latency. Not as critical, but for the most part, it's the levels are the levels, but latency is certainly a concern. Inferior hardware, that's really just what I mean by that is just having a slow old computer or something like that just really can't process all the data that you're working with. Again, just that goes into the whole thing of freezing or computer crashing with a trade on. It's just really a dangerous scenario there. And then, of course, substandard knowledge of computers. It's kind of a no-brainer again, but I mean, you need to have some sort of understanding of how to operate your computer and work through certain things and make sure that your computer is up and running as it should be. Next type of risk a retail trader will face throughout each trading session is settlement risk, and that is has to do with slippage. So slippage really is if you want to, let's say you're trading crude oil and you've got a stop sitting at 100 even, and the market comes down there very quickly and liquidity is drying up and the market's crashing against you, obviously that the chances of getting your fill right at 100 even can be diminished simply because there's no liquidity there to match your order. So that's certainly a concern in your trading, and something that should be factored into any sort of risk that you take on in each trade. The next piece is broker errors, which doesn't happen too often, especially as technology continues to advance, but it's something that still happens from time to time, and it's good to be aware of that. And that, again, you really need to stay on top of what you're doing and review your end of the day account statement to make sure that your fills are matching what the broker statement's providing you. Just kind of, again, no-brainer stuff, but you'd be surprised how people often overlook these types of things. And that kind of, again, plays into the whole trade errors. And what I mean by that is this is not an error upon your broker doing, but simply a situation where you left an order sitting in the market or something like that, and you come back an hour later and see that you have a position on, and maybe you're up or down, whatever, but when that happens, it's best just to obviously close that position out and be done. Don't mess around. So I'll give you an example. I actually did leave an order sitting in the market. Just completely forgot. I was not using the OCO order, which is an order sitting there, and completely forgot about it, and came back the next morning and saw that luckily I was up pretty nicely on the position, but it just, that could have easily gone the other way and been against me. So whenever that happens, it's best just to get out of that, and hopefully there was no bad damage that had happened there, but can be very scary. So you got to be really careful about that kind of stuff, and that's something that it's no fault of your broker. It's your fault. You got to stay on top of that kind of stuff. So be aware of that. Disaster risk. That's these are extreme occurrences, obviously, but it's still something to have some sort of game plan in place, because it can happen, obviously. So obviously a power outage. If you have a power outage, maybe make sure to have a backup battery for your computer, so to give you enough time to maybe get out of that trade if you have one on. Same goes with internet outage. What I do is, I use Interactive Brokers, so they actually have a phone app that actually has a DOM on it, and whenever that, if that were ever to happen, it hasn't happened to me yet, but if that were to happen, at least I know I can close my position out on my phone. But obviously you can call your broker as well, and that's easy as well. But I just found that to be a pretty handy tool to have in place there. Computer issues, again, have some sort of a backup way to get out of your trade. As I mentioned, I use Interactive Brokers, but any broker out there, and I would highly recommend using someone that provides you with server-side orders. So if you're using an order cancel order, OCO order, and it's sitting on their server, and let's just say that your power went out, your internet went out, you had a trade on, or your computer froze up, at least you know that that order is still in place and is sitting on the server rather than your local computer, and you can rest assured that you're protected there. Erroneous orders, kind of what I talked about earlier, just not being aware of just having an order sitting in the market that you forgot about, and coming back and seeing that you have a trade on. That's obviously a scary scenario there. Trading loss, and what I mean by this is really just, as I have below here, the extreme emotional state, and those kind of work hand in hand as far as disaster goes, in that people can kind of go a little crazy with their emotions when they're having a losing day, and they aren't keeping their cool, I guess you could say, and just operating in an extreme emotional state, and just trying to impose their will in the market because they're upset about not the market not doing what they thought it would do. Obviously, we need to accept when we're wrong, but operating in that extreme state is going to lead to substantial trading losses. And one a great example of that would simply be those that try to make their money back on the day. So let's say that you've taken a few trades and you've been wrong. All of a sudden you just can't believe that it's not working as you planned, and you're getting really upset, and you're pulling your hair out or whatever, and you're taking more and more risk on. That's very dangerous. So it's a huge disaster risk that can be more common for the retail trader. Okay, so opportunity risk. Really, all this what I'm referring to here is missing a trade location. Let's say that you're off to the side doing something else, maybe chatting on the internet or reading emails or who knows what, and you're not paying attention to what's going on. That's a major opportunity loss there, and this is a business that requires just about 100% of your participation in watching what's going on in the market. You really can't get caught messing around. Sometimes there might be just one trade the whole day, so you got to be on top of that. Poor stop loss placement. Really, again, just kind of going to what I was talking about earlier as far as putting your stop at levels that just don't make any sense from a structural perspective, and just more of a mechanical, let's say 5-tick whatever, and what often happens is you end up getting stopped out at the high or low tick of that particular move or whatever. And the reason for that is you're putting your orders, your stop orders, at levels that just really don't define anything other than the fact that you simply just don't want to lose, or lose a certain amount of money. The market doesn't care about that. Again, distractions, as I just kind of alluded to earlier with the missing trade location. Emotional hesitation that kind of plays into the whole psychological aspect again. And what I mean by that is, the market comes to the level that you want to take a trade. You've planned on where to take this trade, and you just sit there frozen. That's a huge opportunity loss. I mean, you got to remember, the worst thing that can happen to you on a trade, any given trade, is that you get stopped out. That's it. It's not like someone's going to reach through the screen and choke you out. I mean, you got to overcome that small hurdle and really take what's yours, what you've planned on. So emotional hesitation can lead to a huge opportunity loss. Event headline risk, I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer as well, but really just having exposure to the market during key economic or political news announcements. One example of that would be, let's just say that you initiate a position right before the crude oil inventories report, or right before you put a position on in the ES right before the FOMC announcement. I mean, that there is just ignorance in that you're not paying attention to what's going on in the market, and will quickly lead to the bad outcome, to say the least. Sometimes you might get lucky, but you need to be very aware of those types of things. And then, of course, there's market exposure during unforeseen events or news announcements. So example would be the flash crash, or any other small flash crash that we've seen in some of the other markets, such as gold has recently seen a something similar in that way. So if something like that were to happen, obviously your stop should be hit, but if for some reason the market were to skip over that or whatever, or you just you don't have a stop, obviously you just need to flatten your position out immediately. Do not try and hang on, because who knows how far the market could go. And then the last piece is just trading during the holiday sessions. Sometimes with the futures markets, the market will be open for a short period of time on a holiday session, so really not a good idea to try and trade on those types of days. Kind of no-brainer as well, but You'd be surprised. Okay, psychological risk. I referenced this a few times, but one of the biggest psychological risks is emotional trading. Emotional trading leads to impulsive behavior. It provides you with a poor perception and a poor decision-making process, and it's really just a whole part of the whole behavioral finance concept, where humans, when dealing with their own money, will inherently make the wrong decisions when using their emotion or an emotional response to that decision making. So it's really very important to be aware of your emotions when you're trading, and the goal really is just to try and more or less operate like a computer. It just, otherwise you're going to always have a hard time with excuse me, navigating through your trading each day, because you're trading while watching your profits and losses for the day, or you're scared of what the market's doing, or whatever the reason. These are not logical reasons to take a trade off. For example, you have to always work with logical reasoning when trading, which is so hard for many people, and it's probably one of the biggest reasons why people are not successful with trading is that they just can't get over that emotional aspect of it all. So huge risk, and certainly something to pay the most attention to. You can read every book that's out there regarding emotional trading or psychology, but ultimately it doesn't matter unless you really do figure out a way to handle that in real time. Otherwise it's all just theory. Okay, so that was it for that section. The next section here is measuring and managing risk. So risk management in and of itself should be a value-added edge in your trading. A lot of people seem to think that some sort of an indicator or whatever is an edge alone, and it simply isn't. Managing your risk is a big slice of that success, and it's very, very important to be aware of that. Risk in trading should be looked at from an unemotional perspective.